This video is sponsored and brought to you by the dreamers that hang out on my live streams. Stay tuned to the end of the video to hear their names. If you want a chance to vote on what videos I release next, check out the Mr. X Dreams Discord server. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's so odd about someone having two moms, right? Well, in this case, one of those moms happens to, allegedly, be living in a parallel dimension. That, my friends, is not normal. This first story is based on a Reddit post from the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit entitled Two Moms by user Prospit Daydreamer. Not sure if I'm saying that properly, but I did my best. Here's the story. No matter how you look at it, the story I'm about to share is 100% going to sound crazy. That said, before I begin, I want to make sure everyone understands that I was completely sober when this all happened. A couple of years ago, I went to pick up a friend of mine at her house. We had plans to hang out. Now, the way my friend's house is set up, you have to walk past her kitchen window to reach the front door. As I was walking past the window, I looked inside, just out of normal, mild curiosity to see what was going on. I saw my friend's mom was in the window. Her hair was wet and she was wearing a green sweater. This is important for later. We actually locked eyes. She nodded her head as if to say, "What's up?" I nodded back, of course. I saw her begin to walk away from the window toward the front door, and I figured she was going to open it and let me in. On the side of the front door, there are these little windows. After several seconds went by and her mom never showed up to let me in, I tried peeking through those little windows. Oddly, I saw her just walk right by without stopping. I definitely thought that was weird, so I walked back over to the kitchen window. I thought maybe she spaced out or something and forgot I was there. When I got back to the window, I saw my friend instead, who was not previously there when I had just walked by before. I didn't think much of it, assuming that she had just entered the room. I waved at her and got her attention. She came to open the door for me. We chatted for a bit before her mom came over to say hi. Her hair was still wet, and she was still wearing that sweater. I said, "Hey, I saw you walk by the door. I thought you were going to open it, but you just walked right by." She looked at me with confusion and said, "What are you talking about? I just got out of the shower. I've been in the bathroom for the past 15 minutes. I should note that we were sitting in the kitchen during this conversation. Because of where the bathroom is located, it would have been impossible for her to get there without me having seen her between the time I saw her walk by the windows and the time I came inside. I was just as confused as she was and replied, "What are you talking about? We just saw each other through the kitchen window. We locked eyes and even nodded at each other. You saw me." My friend jumped in, saying she was the only one in the kitchen the whole time. No one had come in or out for a while. For a second, I thought they were messing with me, but they were both dead serious, and they're not the kind of people to take a joke that far. I have honestly never been so confused in my entire life, and I know that I didn't just imagine it, because how on earth would I have just dreamt up exactly how her mom was looking at the time, with the wet hair and the same green sweater? They still think my brain was playing tricks on me, but I know what I saw. It was way too long and way too clear of an interaction. Now that was an interesting story, my friends, a bit of a short one, so I actually added another one into this for you. But first, I wanted to highlight a very interesting comment that someone made on the original Reddit post. Someone said the following about this story. "In some other dimension, the mom told your friend you were outside, and when she opened the door, nobody was there. She's likely also tripping about it." So imagine that, my friends. I had to share a bit of the mind screw there with you before we moved on, because to me, it's an insane concept. Take a moment to let that sink in. Two versions of the same conversation with just a couple of wires crossed somehow, taking place in two separate dimensions, each precisely tuned to make exactly one person seem like a total lunatic. Pretty trippy stuff. Like I said, since that glitch story was so short, I'll share one more. This one is somewhat similar to the Reddit post in terms of the theme. Old school dreamers may have heard a version of it before on my channel, but either way, let me know what you think. Dear Mr. X, you can call me Cole. I was watching one of your Glitch in the Matrix videos and it started me thinking about something I experienced a few years back. Late one evening, I was in my living room, quietly relaxing on the couch. Out of nowhere, an idea popped into my head. Exactly what it was isn't really important. I don't quite remember anyway, to be honest. But it was something I really needed to tell my sister. I knew she was home, but I was just too comfortable on the couch to get up and try and track her down. Moments later, I conveniently heard footsteps coming down the stairs. I looked up and there she was, my sister. I was happy to see that I wouldn't have to give up my spot on the couch, so I sat up and tried getting her attention as she walked by me. "Hey, sis." "Hey." Oddly, she just kept walking, completely ignoring me and marching straight into the kitchen. What made it especially bizarre was the fact that to get to the kitchen, one has to pass through a narrow corridor between the staircase and the back of the couch I was laying on. She basically passed within arm's reach of me as I was loudly calling out to her, but she seemed completely oblivious to me, like I wasn't even there. I was mildly offended by her just brushing me off like that, but I decided it wasn't worth the trouble of getting up to defend my little sense of indignation. I was simply too comfortable. Instead, I decided to turn on the TV. After finding nothing to watch, I decided I was ready to get up off the couch and look for my sister. I went over to the kitchen expecting to find her rummaging through the fridge or something like that, but there was nothing there. No one. I looked in the nearby bathroom. Still no sign of her. I looked out the window into the backyard and then checked the kitchen again. Nothing. I was definitely starting to get a little weirded out, but I decided it wasn't that important anyway and returned to the couch. I laid there for a few minutes, channel surfing, when the sound of the TV was interrupted by footsteps coming down the stairs again. I looked up and saw my sister, for the second time, minding her own business. I was visibly confused at the sight of her. All I could think about was the question of how she could have possibly teleported through space to get back up the stairs. There's only one way up or down. I knew she didn't go outside and climb up the wall to get back into her room. She's also not the most athletic or even energetic person. I asked her what she'd been up to, and she mentioned that she hadn't been downstairs for at least a couple hours. The worst part was, after all that, I couldn't even remember what I wanted to tell her. Sincerely, Cole. Alright, greetings friends, Mr. X Dreams here. I hope you found these 2 short stories as interesting as I did. So, first let's talk about the story of Cole. As you can see, there are similarities between the 2 stories. People seeing doubles or maybe echoes of other people seems to be a very common thing, a lot more so than one might imagine. I've received several stories of a person seeing an after image or an early, perhaps precognitive image of someone else's actions, only to be dumbfounded when it happens again, sort of like a deja vu type situation. That's probably among the more standard types of glitches as far as my experience goes. I often wonder what the cause for these events could be. So, I ask you, what do you suppose happened to make the Reddit poster see 2 versions of her friend's mom? Could it have been a premonition, or a time slip perhaps? A glimpse into a neighboring dimension? Let me know what your theory is in the comments down below. Now, I'm going to open up the floor for the dreamers to weigh in on the situation. Remember, if you want a chance at your question or comment showing up in a future video, make sure you turn on notifications to catch the live stream, where I read this and discuss it live with the dreamers. You could also become a sponsor that way as well by sending a super chat during the stream. So let's see what they had to say today. So, Steve Simmons says, I've been wondering about alternate universes lately. that could be the odd answer to the doppelgangers or even other things. Very interesting point. Although, makes me wonder, when it comes to doppelgangers, it's often associated with two people being in the same space at the same time. Now, in my story that I'm writing a kind of a urban, modern, contemporary fiction, contemporary urban fantasy or something like that. I don't even know what the genres are, but it discusses the ideas of doppelgangers being taken from one dimension and then inserted into the next one, to where there are two of the same person there, and that actually is an existential crisis when that happens in my story. So, yeah, definitely an interesting point there. Casey Christian says, I always like the idea of different dimensions when a person sees what life could be like with a few decisions having been made differently. That actually is a terrifying concept to me, to think about what different things could have played out if I had, even if it's a mistake that I regret or something that I did wrong in the past. I feel like a sense of dread at the idea of undoing even my worst mistakes in life, because there's so many things that could change as a ripple effect, especially the further back you go in time. It is not something I'm willing to mess with. Very interesting idea though. Ambar says, I wonder if one's mind just becomes relaxed so much to a point where we can access some of those other worldly dimensions and see what's always around us, even before or after. Now that is a mind-bending idea, and to some extent I feel like that is plausible, like that if there are other vibrations and frequencies of existence, other dimensions that are just, say, for lack of a better term, above or below or to the left or to the right of us, frequency-wise, maybe, if that's the right language to be using. It's hard for me to encapsulate it, but you know what? I see that Lorie has a comment that might help me out a little bit here. I believe it was Lorie. Yes. Lorie Long says, maybe it's a thinning of the veil, and Cole slipped through and saw a second image or a doppelganger moment. See, that's the key thing. The concept, I always use this language to describe it. A veil that is thin in some areas and thicker in other areas. And perhaps that even certain people are able to see through that veil or pass through it at certain times. Yeah, my brain is starting to break down just thinking about this stuff. Alright, so Cindy says, that might be why people remember the same event differently. That's one thing. And Cindy also said, Cole might have had a premonition of the future as well. That's a lot more cut and dry. Let's focus on the first part of that statement though, Cindy. People remembering the same event differently. That happens every day. All the time. It could very well be that happens. People have these dimensional slips, even if it's just their perception visually, or, they see something different or they hear something from somewhere else, and it's just slightly different than another person, and it's just passed off as a simple disagreement or a simple agree to disagree, like, hey, I remember seeing this person there, you remember not seeing them there, or you remember them standing over there, I remember them standing over here, or I heard this, you heard that. Imagine one day knowing that some of those times, not every time, but sometimes, you actually did see what you thought you saw, but it was another dimension. And remember, we're all suspending disbelief right now and just having some fun and entertaining ourselves and each other. So, super fun conversation and discussion with this. Alright, so now we need to find a code word. So, I should have told you guys this earlier, but let's try to find one now. Through the magic of editing, we will have it in an instant. Alright, so the code word has been chosen. Ambar Chavez came up with this brilliant word. Crypto glitch. because of something that happened during our discussions earlier on during the live stream. So, if you're still listening to this video, type the word crypto glitch in your comment down below so I can see who the real dreamers are. Take care, my friends. Special thanks to this week's Super Chat sponsors: whogivesa, Henry Vang, Shinfitz, Angela RadLove, Cindy S., Jessica D., Cancionero, Lilah Katharine, Reed, Terico, Lorie Long, Brenda, Arlene, Samantha, The Lionheart 021, Zen 2011, MrCreepyPasta, A Ron McCreeps, Zucker. Thank you all very, very much for showing me so much love on my birthday. All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, don't forget to like and share. If you made it to the very end, you're exactly the kind of subscriber I'm looking for. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. That way, you can catch the live show and discuss the stories with me. Your input might even appear in my next video. Last thing, if you heard a code word after the story, type it in a comment down below so I know who the real dreamers are. Take care, my friend. Until next time.